Dumbledore was the guy who ran Hogwarts, right? Okay. Can you imagine Dumbledore one day? He's there. It's a new semester. We got some new students coming back. It's after the summer break. The old students are coming back, and all those little guys are coming in. He's checking it out. Then there's this little kid, man, Harry. Got that scar on his forehead. Dumbledore turns to the faculty and says, "Oh my God, this place is not going to be the same. Buckle up, because Harry is here," right? And man, we don't even know if Hogwarts is going to be able to handle this. How's Hogwarts going to show up in this? The story of Harry Potter is as old as any story told on the face of this blue dot. It's when something comes along and you somehow know tomorrow's not going to be the same as yesterday. It's that thing of change. It's the one thing that this planet, this universe, is absolutely the same every single day in the cosmos as change is taking place. And sometimes it's a little rougher than other times. Change is always there, but sometimes it's kind of quantum, you know? It shows up in larger ways. I was, my day job, I was looking at the word transformation, and I wanted to do some work on that with my clients. And I found a definition which I loved. So I go to the dictionary, I look up transformation. Then I looked at some sort of a book or something. It was online, but some sort of writing from the social work world. And this came from the social work world. I thought it was so great. Transformation, making something into something else. I love that. You know. I remember I went out, I did a group that night. I went to the whiteboard. I couldn't wait to write that. Making something into something else. Isn't that great? I love that. That's what Dumbledore is saying. Harry's here to make something into something else. And that might be a rough ride, A couple of weeks ago, I spoke. I spoke 2 times kind of close together, and I'm not sure which time it was. So I'm going to revisit a theme from that talk, and I apologize for those of you who were with me that day. And hopefully, I will bring some new energy and juice to it. But when I was 14 years old in 1971, John Lennon released the song "Imagine." And what I was talking about a few weeks ago was being that kid who was being influenced by everything around me, the media and the culture and the hippie movement and Jerry Garcia and drugs and anti-war and demonstrations on college campuses and all that stuff. And then I had my parents my dad was World War II generation, felt a certain way, and I found myself in that place. And I was trying to secretly let my hair grow long, You know how you do that secretly? Okay. You got your money to go to the barbershop, but you don't go to the barbershop, and so you go buy a hat and you start shoving it up there. Then one day your mom comes in on you and you haven't put it on. She goes, "Oh my God, what happened to you? Jerry Garcia is what happened to me," right? And so I found myself in this place of wanting to be part of what was going on around me, but also wanting to be part of my family. And in my case, my family, being part of my family was a very deeply religious experience, very deeply religious. Not like this, and so I don't need to say any more about that. And so going in the direction that I was going, and by the time I was 14, that's just about the time I was starting to use intoxicants for the first time. Alcohol, marijuana, things like that were my friends and stuff like that. I was starting to be kind of dishonest, but I was still frightened, trying to leave one place, go into the other. Both places frightened me. My family frightened me, that what was going on in the world around me was frightening me. My hair was frightening me. My choice of clothes was frightening me. And I remember in those days, part of, if you were living out in the sticks like I was as a kid, part of your trying to join the world was FM radio. And it had been around for a while, but in the late 60s, early 70s, it became kind of counterculture, right? And so in most towns, you could find the AM radio station on the edge of town. They had the towers up there, and you could drive by there and stuff. But FM radio was somewhere else. It was in some basement somewhere. It was in some guy's garage, right? And all the DJs sounded stoned, and they were playing all this music, and that's where I first heard Imagine. And I still, if ever I think of it, or I actually hear the John Lennon rendition of it, I close my eyes. I imagine myself in my room with this little crappy clock radio that was kind of duct taped together, and I had it tuned into some FM station. It was at night. I was by myself. I'm about ready to go to bed. John Lennon comes on with Imagine. The song pulled me in. There's something, this is a guy, I want to hold your hand, the Beatles, and all of a sudden, this heavy, on the piano, just straight up song about Imagine. And so I would lay there in my bed or sit on the edge of it and hear him say, imagine there are no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. It scared me to death. But I loved it. I don't think I ever owned the song. I don't think I ever bought a record or album it was on, but it was played a lot in those days, and I loved it. I would whatever I was doing, I would just stop cold, and I was frightened by it, but I was drawn into it. But what has come to mean more for me about the song is more in the chorus. I think it's chorus. I'm not a musical person. You may think I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope you'll join us, and the world will be as one. A dreamer. That's what captured me, because the language of, imagine no structure, imagine no religion, imagine no things, that was structure. And then he says, I'm a dreamer. And that word dreamer is so sweet. It pulls you in. We all love dreamers. We dream ourselves, right? And he pulls you in. You don't have to be afraid of me. I'm a dreamer. Can you be a dreamer with me? That to me is so powerful. And in my life, and I don't want to turn this into the Andy show, so I'm just going to use one quick example, or one piece of my life, is that when I look back at the age of 14, between 14 and about 32 was the roughest time of my life in every way, shape, or form. Things that happened around me, things that I did, most of it I did, I was so unskilled. About, because I decided to take John Lennon up on what he was saying. And I was 14 when it came out. When I turned 16, I got my driver's license, I started disappearing from church. That came between my parents and I in ways that, oh my God, thinking about it just touches my heart, because they were so heartbroken, and they would, because what I would do is I would drive myself to church, and the service would start, and we'd settle in, and then I'd go out the back door. I had this old beat up car, and I'd drive away. And everybody in the church could hear it drive away. That was a beat up car, right? I'm not kidding you. It was a beat up car. It wasn't a Mercedes or anything. It was some sort of Dodge, that was covered in oxidation and had no muffler, okay? And so I would drive away. And later on that day on a Sunday, my mom, heartbroken. What's going on there? And at one level, it's like, yeah, I'm out. I'm John Lennon, man. I'm imagining, I'm moving out. I was being bad, my bad self, right? But the look on her face just pulled at my heart, and I found myself torn in that idea of change, of going forward. And so between, say now 16 and on, it was just change after change after change, getting away from family, getting away from other issues, experimenting with things out there. A lot of my experimentation really went bad, you know what I'm saying? And so, but doing that and living my life and going forward into my early 30s. And the reason I'm talking about my early 30s is because it was my early 30s where I found this philosophy. And so those 20 years were my journey here. And at some level, that's what my dream was. But I didn't know it. Because part of that 20 years was, no religion. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear about God. I don't want any part of anything spiritual, religious, or anything. And yet there was a part of me, the human part of me, that would not let it go. And one day, my life is in pretty rough shape, and I've just recently gone through a divorce and stuff. And someone who means the world to me for this lifetime and beyond said to me one day, Andy, there's a place you need to go, and I think you will like it. I was suspicious because the front door looked like a church. But I went. And it opened me up to this idea of what it is to embrace our authenticity within a spiritual construct. I think sometimes what it would be like, so let's get into a little bit of a folklore kind of idea. This is nothing, let's go way into metaphor. Okay, let's lose ourselves in the metaphor. But I imagine sometimes a god of some kind coming down to the planet. Hadn't been here in a while, been dealing with outer space and stuff. Things going on out there. And just kind of turning things loose down here. And why would God turn things loose down here? Because what we believe in, what spiritual philosophies tell us is there were some laws and principles in place down here. I want to talk about one of them. I use the word transformation. In the metaphysical approach to, and I'm going to say eventual creation. I love that, eventual creation. Sometimes we say, okay, I want it in now, here's my, I want it now, And that happens sometimes. Get a good parking place or, the price of gas drops one day, I want it now, But most of the time, my experience has been is that it's been an eventual, creation. And so in metaphysics, we believe that there's a formula for this, a personal formula that we have. It starts with longing. Well, let me give you the components. I'm going to talk about them. It is longing, desire, imagination, and then intention. That's the formula for creation. You want to create something in your life? Long for it, desire it, imagine it, and then set your intention, right? Okay. So the longing for it, what makes us long for stuff? Generally something that ain't so good, right? I mean, we may see something and it catches our attention, but in my experience, my longing came about because I had been through some things that were really challenging, and I longed to be beyond that. I longed to heal that, right? Desire. Now I really want it. Now I see what I want. The longing a lot of times is, get me out of here, but then I see something I want. I want to go in the direction I want to go. What we know about human beings in terms of how we actually manifest what we want in our life is we have to have some sort of a target. We need an archetype. We need something to go after. So now it comes in to this idea of a desire. How am I going to get there? That's where the imagination comes in. God, it would be so great. John, it would be so great, a world without war. It would be so great, if we could all get along. It'd be so great if we could tear down these boundaries and just be people. Wouldn't that be great? That's the imagination. And in the imagination, we feel it. We can feel the peace. We can feel getting along. We can feel life getting better. We can feel having a car that actually has a muffler. You know what I'm saying? We can feel that. And then the intention is we actually go after it. We start putting it together. So I imagine a God figure comes down. Hey, what's been going on this blue planet? You know, how have these folks been doing? And can you imagine all the different ways that creation is showing up around them? Isn't that amazing? If you look at our history, where we've been, the good, the bad, the ugly, the up, the down, the dark, the light, the everything, the giraffe. You ever thought about that? You're walking around in creation and all of a sudden you got this animal and it's like, he's eating up there. He's down here, but he's eating up there. And the giraffe says, well, then those leaves look pretty tasty up there. And they're all mine because I'm the tallest guy around here. So I get those leaves, you know? Wow. Because it's the same thing. In order to reach the leaves, or in order to manifest peace, is the same formula. Period. And what John Lennon was talking about is we have to dare to imagine. And he said, it's okay to dream. Do you remember, I don't know how many of you had this experience in school, or maybe you were someone who sat near a window and you're supposed to be doing your math and you're just looking out there, you know, like looking at the clouds and, you know. Andy, what are you doing? I'm daydreaming, ma'am. Just like you told me yesterday, I'm daydreaming. I plead guilty to that, right? No, you're not supposed to be doing that, right? And we kind of get this negative connotation about daydreaming. Any of you ever watch Uncle Buck? And he goes to the parent-teacher conference, and the lady in the school says, "Your niece is a twiddler. She's a dreamer. She does not take her professional education seriously." And Uncle Buck says, "I don't want to meet a 7-year-old who takes it seriously. I want a twiddler. I want a dreamer," right? To allow ourselves to dream and consider peace, connection, humanity. Wow. Sometimes, life is about choices. Life is about going one way or another. And I think the larger thing with John Lennon was, he said, please don't choose cynicism. Please don't choose that we can't do this. Because if you do, we're not going to be able to. Do you understand that? Whoa, something under. That was gross. Whether you're the giraffe and you want the leaves up there, there is an evolutionary process to creation. And it's always the same. And imagination and desire and dreaming has to be part of it. But it's not easy. I attended something yesterday that really had a profound effect on me. And I'm not going to go into anything at all except that the people I was with, we listened to a talk given by a person who said that we are being called today here in the 21st century to go into the shaman archetype. In other words, we've had the saviors, we've had the masters, we've had the yogis, we've had the teachers, we've had the scholars. Now we need to go into the shaman. Now, he said that the shaman archetype of today means we must go deeper into whatever the challenge is. And I agree with that, but I want to add this. The one of the definitions of the shaman archetype that I know about is it's about being between two worlds. The shaman has to go between two worlds. Is that what we're talking about? Is that where imagination lives? Between two worlds? Imagine 14-year-old Andy wanting to go get loaded on marijuana, but mom wants him in Sunday school, and he's in those two worlds. I'm not advocating getting loaded, okay? I'm just saying in those two worlds. In those two worlds. That's where we are. I chose this topic. I didn't approach it today completely the way I was going to, but I chose this topic because what is going on in the world today really has spoken to my heart. And what I want to say is, I mean, we are Dumbledore, and Harry Potter has shown up, and Hogwarts ain't going to be the same. But we can create a Hogwarts that is more transformational than ever if we can allow ourselves to dream and to imagine and to follow those dreams with our imagination. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.